Hello and welcome to the latest edition of India Legal, dated March 7, 2022. It's been a hectic week for news, especially with the Indian elections happening in several states that could change the political face of India. But a story that could change the political face of the entire world, which also affects India, is the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It reminds a lot of us who know the history of that area of another person who was Putin's predecessor and earned the title of Ivan the Terrible. He was the 16th century prince of Moscow who assumed the title of Russia's first Tsar, and he virtually forced Russia's entry into Europe through brutal conquests, which were very difficult to resist, and he subjugated most of the politicians. Now, we're not saying that Putin exactly is Ivan the Terrible, and the world is not exactly as it was during the time when Russia's first Tsar took over that nation, because there is, after all, and there are countervailing forces, there are nuclear nations all over, and there is, of course, there are alliances, defensive alliances like NATO. But the central question remains, what can they do? What happens when one of the world's most powerful nuclear nations like the Soviet Union attacks a lesser, smaller country? And there is no option but war, but world war. That's unlikely to happen, because today world war means mutually assured destruction, and this is something that I do not think Biden, the only other person capable of taking on the Soviets, would risk. And NATO is in no position to counter this, militarily at least, because NATO has been weakened, and it was weakened by none other than Biden's predecessor, President Donald Trump, who was always belittling NATO and had even threatened to walk out of NATO. And therefore, Putin has, of course, sensed a division amongst the Western allies and found them weak, and has taken this opportunity to attack a country that has been defying the dominance of Russia in that region. Which brings us to the large question of, what does a smaller nation do when a large nation, especially a nuclear-powered nation, attacks it? What would happen if China, for example, would attack Taiwan? What would happen, for example, if North Korea's Kim again went on the rampage against South Korea? These are difficult questions to answer. Kim already has defied the U.S. even when Trump was president. India has a dilemma on its hands. India and the Russians are great friends. Putin is supposed to have a one-on-one relationship with Prime Minister Modi, and apparently they have been in touch. India has some 15,000 students studying in the Ukraine, and India has commercial deals with Ukraine, including oil, which is India's lifeline. And at the same time, the Soviets are India's one of India's largest arms suppliers, and have had a traditional friendship with India that goes back to the time of Jawaharlal Nehru, and that tradition remains unbroken. So there's a dilemma all around. So what does it mean for the future? What does it mean for the safety of the world? What does it mean for the geopolitical consequences of this conflict? Where will it end? How will it affect India? To answer these questions, we've turned to two of our finest correspondents. We've turned to Dilip Bob, the inimitable Dilip Bob, who's also covered the 1980s Soviet invasion of Afghanistan from Afghanistan itself, who writes on the Indian angle, And we've got Kenneth Tiven, who was the vice president for news for one of the founding vice presidents for news for CNN International, as well as the former Washington Post foreign editor. Together, they serve up a tremendous amount of knowledge on the subject, which we hope will make you wiser on this topic and better informed, which is the primary duty of a magazine like India Legal. Keep reading us and keep yourself well informed and up to date. You can read us for free at www.indialegallive.com. That's www.indialegallive.com every week. And keep reading us. Stay with us.